have?
Russell Willis.
And Russell Willis, what, are you with any organisation?
No, mate, I'm just a citizen and a voter.
A citizen and a voter. And you're very angry about carbon tax, I take it?
The biggest problem I've got with this carbon tax is the government with no mandate trying to introduce a new tax, especially when they said they wouldn't.
Tim Flannery said for so many years, look, get used to drought. And when it rains, it's never, the dams will never fill, right? It started to rain, the drought broke, the dams filled, Wivenhoe overflowed. Within a month of Wivenhoe flooding Brisbane, Julia Gillard, the Gillard government promoted Professor Flannery.
Congratulations, David, for bringing the American Tea Party to Australia under the name of the Australian Tea Party. Tell us what the Tea Party is going to do to stop the Gillard government with the Greens introducing this legislation before she has a mandate.
Well, the Tea Party is really good on some things and not so good on others. The thing that it's best used for is for targeting common targets. Not for joining behind common ideas, but getting many people from different ideas to go after common targets.
And about carbon tax itself, what have you got to say about carbon tax?
We're taxed enough already.
We're taxed enough already. Well said. Thank you, David Goodrich of the Australian Tea Party. With me with great pleasure, Tempe Harvey. Tempe Harvey, what organisation do you represent the government?
Well, I'm with Kids First Australia.
Kids First Australia, and that organisation is purpose and goal?
Well, our purpose is to stop the federal government from taxing us, to give taxpayers money to families that use daycare, in preference to families that use the most popular childcare in the country, which is parental childcare.
Well-known poet, Australian bush poet, and defender of the rights of citizens to live in a free country. Michael, will you please tell us your thoughts on how Gillard can be stopped legislating on the carbon tax?
The carbon tax is anti-jobs, it's anti-civilisation, and the carbon tax is anti-Queensland and anti-Australian.
To know that you end up with the first part.
I know that a lot of you will disagree with me, that it doesn't really matter when it comes to this debate where you come down and decide. What matters is that this tax is throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Three very good reasons why Australians are opposed to this carbon tax. First of all, there was the gross deceit. Then there was the gross cynicism, and of course there is the impending gross economic vandalism, and all of that for no environmental gain.
I represent thousands of small family-owned businesses around the country, many of them are here in Queensland. What we don't want to see is those small businesses being put at a disadvantage, as they will be, against the competition from overseas. Everything from the farm gate to the supermarket shelf will be hit by this insidious tax.
Remember when Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister? He said we needed an emissions trading scheme. He said we needed an ETS or it would never rain again in the Murray-Darling Basin. Remember the Senate threw out the emissions trading scheme and then it started to rain. In fact, it poured. The drought broke. Kevin had no idea. Remember before the election, Julia Gillard said no carbon tax. So after the election, it should be no carbon tax.
I do accept most of what I consider the mainstream science underlying the carbon tax, underlying the urge to put in a policy. I accept that the world has had a warming trend since the 70s, and that humans have probably had something to do with it.
You're entitled to your opinion, mate.
That's okay, you're on drugs, it's okay.
We have received a very... I'm here today to represent the working families, the mums and dads who couldn't be here today because they're working their second or third, even their fourth job just to pay the bills and to make ends meet. Families are already struggling with the increased cost of fuel, food, water, electricity, and the exorbitant taxes that are already placed on those necessities. They're not luxuries, they are the necessities that are needed as part of life. And just when you thought that governments could not tax you anymore, they come up with a new tax. And they may want to call it a carbon tax and repackage it and rebrand it and try and con the Australian public into believing that unless this tax goes through, the world will fall apart. But this is nothing more than a tax on air. That is what it is.
That's enough already.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a little bit of confusion about exactly what a carbon tax is. When you go around and you talk to some of the older people, some of the younger people, and they go, what the heck is a carbon tax? I like to explain it like this, when there's any confusion whatsoever. A carbon tax is this. Carbon tax is the Prime Minister and all her mates in Canberra and all the bureaucrats hanging on saying, we want you to pay more money to us and we're going to stop the world's climate from changing. That's a carbon tax. Does anyone believe it? It's absolutely ridiculous.
We've income tax and carbon tax and excise on our beer. The burden on our shoulders gets heavier every year. Julia is wondering how else to make us pay. She'd even put a tax on sex if she could find a way. Now, I really do need to say something important before I close this wonderful gathering with a little poetry. And what I have to say is important is this. In Australia, which is a constitutional monarchy, Her Majesty the Queen has no influence whatsoever on policy of any kind. And people who are so ignorant as to blame Her Majesty the Queen for the carbon tax would have to be the most stupid people in the history of political democracy.
Who are we talking about?
Well, thank you very much, Michael, but I just want to make it very clear that nobody, and I mean nobody, to do with what's been put on today has invited the CEC.
And even the Greens just recently said that this tax will cost jobs.
They don't care. Greens don't give a rat.